A new cyclone potentially developing in the Coral Sea on tonight's tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for January 7th. Well, Ellie holds on a little bit longer as it continues inland, well inland over Australia now. The first storm of the year so far, if you count its second appearance in Western Australia after its first one just before Christmas. We're also tracking other systems right now, particularly in the Coral Sea, and we'll take a look in just a moment. In the Atlantic, it's 145 days until hurricane season. At least I think so. I can't remember if I changed that number or not. Either way, it's still a long way away, and there's not much going on in the Atlantic right now. A strong extratropical system right at the northern part there, though. 90% chance has been given by our analyst team for that area of interest in the Coral Sea headed towards the east-southeast towards New Caledonia. Another area which is just east of New Caledonia, moving southeastwards, and probably won't form. In the middle of all that is Ellie. Well inland, still over Western Australia, just about to cross over the border, and a 10% chance has now been designated in the southwest Indian Ocean as well. Models are starting to pick up within the 5-day period now for potential development of a tropical cyclone that will gradually move towards a generally westward direction towards Madagascar. That's something we'll pick up on in the models a little bit later on, but it looks like that threat might be materializing just a little bit quicker than we expected in previous updates. Satellite imagery of the last 24 hours. Look out for those red areas. You can see some over Australia and a big bank there over Mozambique. Tropical rainfall there, but the Australian ones as well. Huge amounts of precipitation in some of those areas, and you can quite clearly see that new system there as well. Here it is in much more clarity on the latest RAM satellite imagery, the enhanced infrared imagery here, with well into the minus 80 degree cloud tops, at times into the minus 90s. I'm not convinced this is a tropical cyclone at all yet, mainly because of how elongated the wind field is. So I would definitely put that on hold right now, and still no guarantee that it'll actually get there at all with that issue that it's got. Having said that, it is looking decent on this satellite imagery, and models aren't the be-all and end-all, so it certainly has a chance to get there towards tropical cyclone status, and it could hold that for a couple of days, or maybe 3 or 4 even. This is a wider shot of the whole Australian region there into the South Pacific. You can see that other system to the southeast of New Caledonia as well, just a small looking cyclonic system that probably won't last very long at all. We were expecting all this kind of stuff, of course, with that big line of moisture which is causing huge amounts of rainfall in some of those areas, and just lots of unsettled weather all over the place here in the South Pacific. You can see more convection blowing up over the Cape York Peninsula as well, which has seen a lot of rainfall too, and if we were to zoom out, you'd see that that line would extend even further east as well towards Fiji and Samoa. You can also see the remnants of Ellie, still not remnants yet of course, but on the left hand side there you can just make out its rotation, and still looking okay, but it is on its way out and will be completely out very shortly. There is that wider shot, and you can see another big bank of convection blowing off towards the east there, passing through Samoa right now, and then on towards the open Pacific Ocean. So certainly a very unsettled picture across that entire region. So that's the latest satellite imagery. Let's take a look at some sea surface temperatures around the world in our whistle-stop tour. Anything above 79 is good for tropical cyclone development. That's 26 degrees Celsius. I know there's a conflict with the units there, with the temperature in Celsius being on the colour scale and the Fahrenheit actually being indicated. Unfortunately, I can't change that. I wish I could. But temperatures there up to around 27 degrees Celsius in parts of the Caribbean Sea, and also 1 or 2 spots off the coast of Pacific Mexico. The rest of the Atlantic, much cooler, of course. It is off season and we're not expecting anything. Indian Ocean, the north side of it, is looking decent around India itself, up to around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, cooler further north. Into the southwest Indian Ocean, temperatures are quite decent there. Of course, we're quite interested in that area right now. 28 degrees and above all around Madagascar and out to sea. A little bit cooler off the west coast of Australia, but further north near the tropical zone, around 28 degrees Celsius. Gulf of Carpentaria, piping hot. Coral Sea also looking good. Where that system is right now, it's about 27 degrees Celsius there. And running up towards the western Pacific Ocean there, temperatures in the deep tropics are good. 28 degrees or so. South China Sea is marginal, 26, and the Philippine Sea is also looking good as well, 27, although a little cooler further north. That's your whistle-stop tour of those temperatures, and these are the anomalies. The orange zones, that's above average. The blue zones are below average in terms of sea surface temperatures. Western Pacific is above right now. Still a cool pool off the west coast of Australia and into the Gulf of Carpentaria even, would you believe. The South Pacific, though, a little bit above average, so certainly enhanced moisture there, and the La Nina effect still quite clearly there in the Central Pacific, although it is starting to fade away slowly. Oceanic heat content is looking decent in the South Pacific, extending down past the Fijian Islands now towards Tonga, looking good there. Anything blue, light blue to green there is pretty decent for the energy availability for tropical cyclones. Western Pacific, it's a year-round basin. You can't rule anything out there. There's a little warm area there not far from Guam. Alright, let's check the GFS computer models for the next 5 days. This is the South Pacific, and you can see what happens with this upcoming or current potential tropical cyclone. Continues to saunter towards the southeast, passing by New Caledonia. And then, as you saw at the end of that 5-day period there, the GFS is now keen on developing another system just off the far north Queensland coast. Other models aren't on board with that yet, but certainly something that can't be ruled out. This is the rainfall expectations for the next 7-day period, so take a look at this one closely and you will see a big anomaly, but that is mainly because of that and reliant on that cyclone forming at the end of that run there, at the end of those 5 days, and then moving down towards the coast there. Should stress again that no other models really going for that yet, but if it did happen, you can see there it's a massive rainmaker, up to 35 inches just off the coast of northern Queensland there. Trying to compute what that is in millimeters, I think that's getting on for 900 millimeters there just off the coast. Into the longer range, this is day 5 through 10. There's that southwest Indian Ocean system that really gets itself going after the 5-day break point, and there it is, a small system and an intensifying one, becoming potentially a major cyclone on its way to northern central Madagascar, getting towards category 2 or 3 status by the time we get to the end of that 10-day period. Of course, it could still deviate southwards, giving the Mascarene Islands a run for their money as well, so certainly this track is not set in stone. The South Pacific, there's that cyclone off the coast of Australia again, but it is only really the GFS that's on board with that right now. And then another system not far from Samoa there, moving quite erratically, but becomes a strong cyclone in the end, mainly moving over water. And just another note on that Australian system, it makes landfall and then moves back out again there after that landfall, and still trails along and trying to move southeastwards towards Townsville and continues there after the 10-day period. That's all the serious stuff out of the way. Scan the barcode and you can enter the Force 13 merch store and take a look at what we've got. All of our usual products, and are still waiting for Hone t-shirts, as well as individual and full season animations on request. Well, what's going on in the Scilly range? There's that landfall, of course, quite far north in Madagascar there. And that is probably a Category 3 landfall. Regenerates briefly and makes landfall in Mozambique there as a tropical storm, so that would certainly cause a lot of rain impacts as well as the strong winds. And then another system near the end of that possibly trying to form a broad thing out of that energy there, but certainly a big cyclonic landfall for Madagascar. After last year, they were absolutely barraged by numerous tropical cyclones, but we don't really want to see another one. There's that other strong cyclone that continues southwards. I don't think there's any land areas there. There might be some small islands like Niue perhaps. I'm not sure if that's in that exact area, but it does end up floating southwards, and then maybe one or two other systems in the offing after that in the Coral Sea, and possibly a non-tropical system that might get tropicality right down there in the Tasman Sea, although that's probably reaching a little bit, and it is very long range, so I wouldn't rule in any of what you just saw there, to be honest. Well, what happened on this day back in 1981, January the 7th? It was Cyclone Florine, which was a Category 3. Unfortunately, in 1981 there was no geostationary imagery for that area, so we're left with one of the polar orbiting satellites to take a look at what the storm actually looked like there. And you can see it had a pretty well constructed eye wall. Looks like it was just flaking a little bit on the western side, but certainly looks good for Category 3 to me there. And that was Cyclone Florine. Also a fascinating little trough there that was extending from Iceland all the way down to the mid-Atlantic. Anyway, back to today. The first name on the Atlantic naming list, hopefully still a while off yet, is Arlene. The Eastern Pacific, Adrian, and in the Central Pacific, it's Hone. Here's hoping we see Hone first, because that means the other seasons will have a very late start. In the Western Pacific, next up is Sanvu, and in the North Indian Ocean, we have Mocha. One storm so far this year, and it still says code blue, but it is actually unclassified now, so we didn't get to update that. We are down to no alert status. In the Australian region, the next name might be coming soon: Freddy, the Southwest Indian Ocean, Chiniso, and the South Pacific, Harley. I'll be back on the 9th of January. Hopefully my team will keep you up to date till then.